I gotta say, today's pretty exciting. I woke up extra early on a wintry weekend so that I could learn a little something about ice racing. My good friend Nerissa is an amazing person. She's an engineer, she recently got into racing, she's been a long-time Harley rider, and she's just an all-around badass and creative person. So I'm very excited that today she's gonna give me a bit of a crash course in ice racing. Go ahead, finish up your coffee, have a little biscotti, and we'll head to the garage.
Yesterday we came here and like all the snow from that street they just shoved up into this driveway.
Oh my god.
4 feet high. And we're like, all right, fucking cool. Some money.
Wow.
Music, please.
Oh my gosh, wow. Oh, so this is like the tidied up version, pretty much? Nice.
Yeah, usually there's like more motorcycles over here. You kind of have to like walk through them all. Yeah, it's neat.
This is crazy.
So,
it's very cool.
Yeah, so like this is our corner. That's Johnson's bike that he's going to use for Flat Out Friday. So I'll be riding that in the women's class on Flat Out Friday. Just need a little bit more work before it runs.
God, I love these signs.
Those are off of an old mechanic shop. Chad's wife, Becky, it was her dad's shop. So this is Chad's side. Chad does a lot of flips. He'll get old bikes and then get them running again, resell them.
Oh my god, even better.
Beer fridge.
White Claw.
Necessities. There's some water in there too.
White Claw is water.
Yeah, right? This is Andy's side of the shop.
Let's get on one.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
Cute.
So he's always rocking some kind of good music. So he doesn't have it parked in here right now. Andy built a bike and raced it at Bonneville Salt Flats this summer and was trying to break a speed record. Yeah, he's normally got it parked in here, but he doesn't right now. But that's his suit. I'll just open this quick. You can't really, it's dark. You won't be able to see much.
Oh, there's more?
Just for your own curiosity, I guess.
Oh my god, it just keeps going.
That's not all of it.
Oh my god.
There's more back there.
They have all this space
Yeah, so
and all these bikes?
Oh, yesterday evening I saw a man.
Wow, this is awesome.
yeah. Yeah, so this is our corner, like I said. My husband and I share it. A lot of the tools are mine, but he's been buying a lot of tools now. So I think we're at like a 50-50 split now. I think we've gotten to that point. But he always used to joke that I always had better stuff than he did. He bought this in Portland, Oregon this summer at a little street market. I thought it was really cute. And no, there is not a 10mm wrench on there. I checked. Because a 10mm wrench is always the one that you need and you can't find.
Or else you'd be cutting it down to use it.
Exactly. But yeah, it's just kind of become our workspace. Like I said, this is, John's new bike, the KX250, and then this is a 1970 something Yamaha XS 650 that John is in the process of rebuilding. So like most of that bike is in boxes right now. Yeah, I've got some project bikes too. It's our space. It's so nice just to have a space.
Well, cool. So this is a bike that you're going to be racing?
This is my bike, yep. We'll be racing the high voltage races. It's a CRF 150F, so it's just kind of a little bike, but I love it. It's like my everything bike. I use it for the dirt. I've taken on flat track races. Used it for Flat Out Friday last year. I guess like the unique thing about ice bikes are the tires. I'm trying to get these rims off a little bit here. My screws are kind of rusty. I should take better care of them. The screws are actually threaded into the rubber of the tires. My tires, I bought them from a guy called Fredette Racing. He's kind of known for having really high quality ice tires, but some people actually build their own. I wasn't brave enough to do that because it's kind of black magic, actually. Because if you kind of look closely, the location and the orientation of the screws is very important. So if you look in the center here, these are more horizontal facing. and then they start to rotate in different directions as you get towards the outside of the tire. The orientation of the screw helps a lot with the grip and like the style of riding you're doing. You know, maybe someone who's only doing oval races may have a slightly different pattern compared to someone who does TT style where it's left and right turns. These screws are actually AMA sanctioned. AMA is a American Motorcycle Association, and they develop a lot of the rules, and it's like the primary sanctioning body for a lot of local races. They actually dictate like the height of the screw head and the depth and all that kind of stuff. There's different types of screws as well. Besides the AMA screws, there's also what's called Canadians. And the Canadians are quite a bit longer, but they're not legal for most races. But they're a lot of fun because obviously being longer, they stick in the ice like crazy. But they also kind of tear up the ice more. So, it's not always the greatest thing. And if you get a bunch of guys like riding Canadians, then it kind of like will tear up the track, and maybe the AMA tires won't work quite as well. So we keep the wraps on them just for protection. You know, some people do a really good job of drying them off after they ride so that they don't rust. So besides the tires themselves, the fenders are unique as well. So also per AMA rules and just for general safety practices, you should have ice fenders on. That's what this extra set of fenders is on the rear, and then there's one on the front. The amount of wrap on these is also sanctioned by the rules. Mine's a little bit long, but for example, in the rear, it has to be at least perpendicular off of the rear axle, and then a little bit past vertical here. The point of these is if you're racing against people and you crash, which of course happens, no limbs get caught into that.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, it's not pretty. I've heard stories. But basically, you know, if they want to be able to go like this with an arm and then not have any contact with the screws. And the bracketry is kind of interesting because for how many people ice ride, there's not really just like straight off the shelf brackets that you can buy for a lot of these. So a lot of people end up making their own brackets. For some of the bigger bikes, there are like local companies that make really nice brackets where they'll actually like CNC the mounts for them and then powder coat them and everything. I don't think my bike is that fancy, so I didn't do that. But also the bigger bikes, Becky's that's sitting over there, the bigger bikes like the 250s and the 450s often have hollow axles. So it's a little bit easier to put the mounts in because you can just put a rod through it that maybe has like threads on the end and connects up to these. But with mine, I had to actually drill a hole in the bracket and like thread the axle through the hole. And on the front, I had to like actually drill and tap the end of my axle because it's solid. I don't have the hollow axle. Like the mini bikes, the 150s and smaller, like nobody seems to make brackets for these, so they're all custom made. I had a friend help me out with mine, and the community is really great. Like I had a friend help me with mine, and then I recently helped another friend make hers. So everyone just helps each other because they just want to get out there and have fun.
Yeah, the more the merrier.
Yep, exactly. I feel really special because they're painted so awesome.
Yeah.
My friend Chris Glumbin did that for me. He's a very, very talented artist. Pinstriping, airbrushing, you name it. I was a little nervous at first because I didn't want to crash and scratch them. No, they're in good shape. It's pretty awesome. So this is something I still have to finish today. I got to wire in my kill switch. This is not just for ice racing, but most racing. So like Flat Out Friday, for example, this is required as well. You wrap this around your wrist or something on your jacket. So then if you crash your bike, it pulls maybe like that and then kills the engine. Good stuff. But yeah, that's like another little race modification, I guess you can say. What a lot of people do for the ice, and I just recently started doing this, is adding these mitts. So, I mean, you can wear really thick gloves, but these make a huge difference. So just strap them on like that, and you stick your hand in, and I can wear thin gloves and have no problem at all. I love them. That's kind of it. Other than that, it's just like a normal dirt bike. Special tires, special fenders, and some mitts. My favorite part is my sparkly grips.
Yeah, I was noticing that. Those are so fun.
It's funny how many compliments I get on them, even from dudes. That's how you know it's my bike. A lot of people will do some modifications to their engine with, like, basically the breathing of the engine and the fueling. So, for example, the carburetor. A lot of bikes are carbed. The fuel injection ones, you don't have to worry so much, but the carbureted bikes, they'll change the jetting because cold air is much more dense, so the engine can suck in a lot more air than it could in the summertime if you're just riding dirt.
Okay.
So a lot of people will change the jets in their carburetor to accommodate that so that the engine isn't running too lean. So they'll add like bigger jets, more fuel to accommodate the denser air coming in. I haven't really had problems with mine, and also since it's a small bike, I don't run it as hard as like some of the guys with the big 450s and stuff like that. Maybe I'll do that a little bit before the race, but we'll see. I'm not too worried about it because ultimately, like, I'm just doing it to have fun. I'm not being crazy competitive with it.
Is there anything special about the tire pressure too when you're ice racing?
I'm not really an expert on tire pressures yet. I think for the most part, you want it fairly full compared to, say, if you're doing like single track dirt bike riding in the summertime. You may set it really low because you might be like climbing over rocks or all this like really uneven kind of terrain. But with ice riding, it's for the most part a flat surface. You know, as the ice kind of gets dug up with more and more people riding it, you'll start to get some ridges in it, but it's nothing like climbing over big rocks and things like that.
How cold does it like consistently have to be for you guys to be able to be out there?
Below freezing is always best, right? Because that means it's making ice. It depends, you know, like once there's a solid base of ice, then for the most part, it kind of sticks around. Unless you get like this really, really warm day, if it rains, it'll kind of mess with the top layer and make it really slushy. Or if it snows, actually snow is bad.
Oh.
Because the snow will actually pack in between the knobbies of the tires and then prevent the screws from really digging into the
bad
ice.
traction.
Right. The best ice riding is absolute glare ice. And it sounds crazy because people are just like, what? Glare ice? You're crazy. But no, that's the best because that's when the screws have all this available surface area to really dig in and grip. And like, I swear, I think that sometimes riding on the ice with the screws, it feels like Velcro. Like you have more grip on the ice with your screws than you do sometimes in the dirt. It takes a while to kind of get your mind into the right method for riding the ice bikes because if you ever look up pictures or videos, the main thing when you're turning is that your back end will slide out. And you'll see some guys, if they're like going real hard in the paint, they'll be at like full lock and their back end is way out over here. And it looks awesome. That's not necessarily the fastest way around a corner, but it's the coolest looking for sure.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to get comfortable with that slip. So, and like every tire, how I was describing the orientation of the screws and everything, every tire is handmade. So it kind of has its own characteristic. And you have to kind of like ride your tires a little bit to get used to how they react. When I first started riding, I was borrowing a friend's bike because they had invited me to come down. And then once I got my own tires and put on my own bike, it had a completely different feel. Like the point at which it would start to slide out from underneath me was completely different. And it kind of freaked me out at first, right? But once you kind of like start to anticipate it and feel it, then you understand when it's coming and then that's when you control it. In the corners, or like when you're kind of like you want to sort of slip out your rear on a lot of the corners. And the thing that is maybe sort of counterintuitive for most people is you have to stay on the throttle in the corner. Like when in doubt, throttle it out. I've never heard that. It's very applicable here. When you're coming to a corner and you're sliding, if you chop your throttle, I've done this, there's a very good chance that you're going to upset the bike and you're going to lose your traction. And I've actually high-sided my bike doing that. Ooh. And it does not feel good on ice. Like crashing on the ice really isn't that big of a deal because more often when you crash, you low side. So you're just kind of like, oh, okay, you just like slide away from your bike, right? Not a big deal. But if you high side it, you know, and it flips you off the high side, there's a lot of force behind that. It hurts because ice is really hard. Hard water is hard. But yeah, when you're in the corner, you have to like really maintain constant throttle. And then as soon as you hit your apex, like give it and then throttle out. And when you give it that more throttle, you'll actually feel it like dig in and stick more and then push you out. Like that's why I say it's kind of counterintuitive. And I know like my first couple times trying it, I had to get that through my head because, you know, think about when you're on the street riding. If you kind of hit a slippery portion or maybe you're coming into a corner, you're probably going to slow down a little bit before you accelerate. You're not just going to like maintain this heavy throttle as you're going through because I mean you're obviously not trying to like slide your rear end out on a street bike. So there's a little like I guess special technique or like certain kind of throttle control And obviously your body position is very important as well. But that's why I like it, because it's very like active riding. You know, you don't just, I mean, you can just like sit on the bike and like have fun, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like really getting into it, then like you're shifting your body weight around for each corner and really like playing with the gas and everything.
Slide, dog, if your capital presumes you know what's my time, I look for master senses, it's a cold,
Yeah, I'm like, I want to make a documentary.
Okay.
That's freaking dope.
Dog here.